18-year-old Ethan Couch, the so-called Affluenza teen who fled his own probation, has been caught in Mexico with his mother. Now, initial reports of this indicated that since he violated his probation, he was going to face 10 years behind bars. But now it turns out that if he is convicted of doing anything wrong, he will only face a whopping 120 days behind bars. And I'll give you the details on that in just a second. I'll give you the details in that in just a second. Now, let me give you the details on how he got caught. It all started when a Snapchat video of him was leaked, or allegedly of him was leaked, showing him playing beer pong, or at least being present when others were playing beer pong. That violates his probation. And if he violates his probation, he's going to serve more time, or is going to finally serve some time behind bars. His mother knew that. Cops are saying that once the mother realized that this would happen, she threw a party for him at home, kind of a last party before they would flee, and then they fled to Mexico, where they were caught in Puerto Vallarta. He was detained Monday in the Mexican Pacific resort town of Puerto Vallarta along with his mother. It's believed that Couch may have violated his probation by skipping town earlier this month after he was tied to a video that surfaced online and may show him drinking. That's a violation of his probation. You guys get that point.
Okay, so then he had that clever disguise that you're seeing in the graphic behind us.
He dyed his hair. He used to be blonde. He dyed his hair dark, thinking that he would be able to evade the authorities. What's incredible is that you can't get away with crimes by fleeing to Mexico. The movies aren't true.
So, look, in the old days, back in 1878, you can flee to Mexico and get away with it. You know why? Because nobody was going to bother chasing your ass down there. Very rarely did it happen, and they're not going to find you in the middle of Mexico. These days, we extradite people.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course they're going to find you. It's not that complicated, especially when you're hanging out in I was going to say an escort. Interesting. In a resort in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, a resort that American tourists frequent, which means that since you were a high-profile case, a lot of people might recognize you.
Dude, even Captain Steubing goes there. Okay, so, but this idiot probably thought like, no, I dyed my hair black. They're probably going to think I'm Mexican.
No one's going to know. Now, it's unclear how authorities caught them, but it turns out that the reason why they were detained initially is because they were in Mexico without the proper documentation.
Oh, isn't that ironic?
It's so incredible. Okay, so he gets caught, his mom gets caught. His mom is now facing charges for helping him flee the country. And she could face 10 years in prison. However, he's only facing 120 days because of the following, okay? And this was just reported. So he's still on probation, but it's being handled by the juvenile system, okay? So because of that, they would only be able to put him in detention until his 19th birthday in April, at which point he would have to be released. The remainder of his 10 years of probation would then roll over to adult court, but at that point, he'll already be free.
Okay, and then he'll run away to, Cancun and be like, I made it. Okay, so we'll see what happens to him as an adult. We still don't even know if he's actually going to be put in jail at this point.
Right.
You never know. He might claim affluenza again. By the way, ironically, now all of a sudden he has a case because he's like, no, you're not getting it. I really don't understand the consequences of my action. I thought if I just moseyed down to Mexico and hung out at Puerto Vallarta, I'd get away with it. Yeah, you might really not understand your actions. And the original Affluenza case was my parents were so rich and I was so rich that they showed me you can get away with anything if you're rich enough. And so here's his mom reinforcing that. So if I was his defense attorney, I'd be like, look, his mom did it again.
Yep.
You see, affected the kid thinking he can get away with it because his mom escorted him down there. Now, if I was the judge, would I listen to that bullshit? Of course not, right? But the mom here, I can't say enough bad things about her.
She's a terrible person.
Not only are you a terrible person who are aiding and abetting all sorts of things. I mean, 4 people got killed in the original accident. Like, don't you have any conscience about that?
Nope.
Don't you feel bad about that?
Nope.
Okay. But then to throw a party for your kid before you run away to Mexico, and forget about what a bad person she is for a second. Think about how profoundly stupid she is. Oh yeah, I'll make a getaway. Didn't you Google extradition at all? You probably have no idea what the word means.
No.
But it's okay. I'm told by the right wing all the time that the rich earn their wealth.
Right.
And that's why they should have their tax cuts lower. That's their money, and you shouldn't touch it because they're so much better than us.
They are. They're smarter than us. They work harder than us. And that's why she didn't Google extradition treaties and figure out which countries have treaties with us.
Let's talk about another layer of stupidity here. You idiot. It was going to be really hard to prove that was you in the video. And you don't even see you drinking in the video. But what do? They panic.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, you got away with killing 4 people before. You can't get away from a Snapchat video? You're so dumb. And then when you run, though, you automatically violate your probation because you're not supposed to leave that area. So then, by definition, even without the video, we can put you away. And then you ran away, which kind of shows guilt. I can't believe they hatched this plan. And everybody was like, oh, man, I didn't think about Puerto Vallarta. That's a great idea. Let's do it.
Well, I'm glad they're idiots, and I'm glad they got caught. My guess is they panicked over the video because there was more evidence, right? Mm-hmm. Because if he's openly going out there and violating his probation, getting drunk, doing things that he's not supposed to do, other people are going to leak information about him, right? It's not that hard to find him guilty of violating his probation. So I think it's easy for him to get caught. What I just don't understand is how they really didn't think that authorities would find them in Mexico or that they wouldn't be extradited to the U.S. But that's eventually what happened. And even through all of this, the most time he's going to spend behind bars is 120 days. Keep in mind, there are more than 3,000 people in the United States right now that are serving life sentences without the chance of parole for non-violent offenses. Okay, and this guy, because his family had the resources to get him the best attorneys, was able to literally get away with murder.